Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Museum of the African Diaspora. I'm the Director of Public Programs, and MOAD is a contemporary art museum. Our exhibitions and programming inspire learning through the global lens of the African diaspora. Today, we are thrilled to be presenting Moving from Solidarity to Action, How to Set Our Tables for a Future of Collective Liberation, a program curated by MOAD's Chef-in-Residence Jocelyn Jackson. We bring you together for an intimate conversation about food as a uniquely powerful medium for collective resistance. Today we have with us Jocelyn Jackson, our chef-in-residence. She's an award-winning chef, artist, teacher, and activist. Ora Wise, Brooklyn-based event producer, community organizer, and chef. And Reem Assil, Palestinian-Syrian chef and activist. Please let us know where you're joining us from by typing it into the chat. We love to find the diaspora in our audience. And now I will turn it over to Jocelyn.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We have a little, oh, there we go. We got it sorted. Thank you, first of all, for being on this technological journey with us. So grateful. And we invite you into the process with us as we make some mistakes, as we have some laughter. We just do the impromptu of what is needed in this moment. And just grateful that you made a big yes to joining us tonight. Like Elizabeth said, my name is Jocelyn Jackson. I am so grateful to be here with Ora and with Reem. It's one of those really powerful experiences of having an instinct for us to be connected and in solidarity in real life, even virtually, and have this impression of what we all know to be true, to be presented to our communities in as many ways as possible, as often as possible. And I feel like that's also what you all have said yes to this evening as well. I want to start by having Ora and Reem introduce themselves to you directly, and we'll start with Ora.
Well, first of all, thank you for gathering us here. It is, as we were just saying earlier, right on time. We need this fortification and connection, so thank you. I am an anti-Zionist Jew who I've been working in food, farming, hospitality, and food systems for a little over a decade. And I was born in Jerusalem, and so I had a whole journey of I would say unlearning Zionism and the colonial relationship to that land, and in that process of joining Palestinians in the struggle for liberation, finding my full humanity. And that is also a big reason why I'm here today with y'all, using food as a uniquely powerful vehicle for doing self and system transformation and for fortifying our movements for collective liberation. And so I'm excited to get into that today. And I think probably we'll talk a little bit more about how we started connecting later. But I'm based in Brooklyn, and I produce a pop-up called Queer Aperitivo. And also am a member of FIG, which is a grassroots collective of food, farm, and hospitality workers who do political education work and mutual aid work with queer and trans migrant and refugee folks in the city, and also are launching an apartheid-free zone campaign as a expanding and deepening of our ongoing boycott, divestment, and sanctions work in solidarity with Palestinians.
Thank you so much.
It's really an honor to be here.
Thank you for coming to the West Coast.
I mean, not a problem.
Hi, everybody. My name is Reem Assil, and I'm a Bay Area-based chef. Founder of a bakery and restaurant called Reem's California. We're an Arab street corner bakery and restaurant concept that's really inspired by the vibrancies of communities around Arab bakeries. And our mission really is to build community across cultures, across experiences, generations, through the warmth of Arab bread and hospitality. My community building work extends far before my culinary career. I came into food about 15 years ago almost. It's crazy to think that now I've been in food for 15 years, but prior to that, I was, you know, whatever that means, I was paid to organize, which is like a crazy thing in
Right.
this country that
Right.
you could be paid to knock on doors and
Mhm.
connect with people and have tea with them and
Mhm.
learn about their issues and how they're going to change the conditions of their reality. But
Mhm.
I like to say that my job always has been either pre-culinary or
Yeah.
post to help people find a voice, whether it's in their
Mhm.
jobs or in their neighborhoods, to be able to really have control over their own destiny and to
Yeah.
be able to stand in their dignity, whatever it is that they choose to do with their lives. And so that's been my lifelong mission.
Mhm.
It's in my blood as a child of immigrants. I grew up in a Palestinian-Syrian home, and the culture was very deep. And we say, being Palestinian, being in diaspora from the womb, you're like, you see injustice, and yeah, really gravitated towards social justice work because I saw my struggle as somebody who was estranged from my
Mhm.
roots in other communities and struggle here in the US. And so I've been a longtime Palestinian activist. I'm also a member of the Arab Resource and Organizing Center, which for local folks is really an organization that builds power and through economic and racial justice here in the Bay Area for Arabs from here to the homeland.
Very
Right?
good.
It's all very interconnected. We understand that the liberation of our people back home is interconnected with the liberation of people here locally. And so my work is really grounded in solidarity with the global systems, but by doing the local work. And that's very much kind of how I came to food, but also how I approach organizing is
Yeah.
that, you know, starting with your community, and that is very intersectional. So
Truly.
yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. We all need to hear that, the context of you and the journey that is coming into a reality of how you need to show up in the world. And so much of this evening is offering that invitation to everyone, offering an opportunity for people to tell us their story of how that's happened. We want to be in a place where the invitation to be radically aware of what's in the world is an easeful thing for us to take on. And that's really some of the spirit behind us having this experience tonight is, you know, I need to be really clear. We're going to do something really beautiful this evening together. We're going to interact with these heartfelt, cultivated seeds from folks that are in El Sobrante. We're going to be able to enjoy many of these ingredients that are so beautifully produced and cultivated often in Palestine, but not now, right? Not now. And so I need to lay clear at the beginning of this that according to the ICC, the ICJ, the UN, there's an active genocide happening right now, and that is intolerable.
And the global community around the world, which
And the
also
global community
has
around the world.
the most legitimacy to see truth.
Exactly that.
Not just
exactly that.
the colonial institutions.
Thank you for naming it.
Even
Thank you for naming it. Yes. Thank you for naming it. I use it as a context for people to understand as far as validating, but
Yeah.
really, let's listen to the global majority.
Yeah.
And the insistence of the truth, right?
Yeah.
In this moment. So thank you for putting that point on it.
Yeah.
That's the lived reality that we need to hear and adjust our reality to. It is intolerable that this is something that's happened for a year, let alone over 70 years.
Yeah.
And this is a moment in time for us to say these things out loud in a way that's on purpose so that we can find deeper ways of recommitting to what we do every single day in this reality. That's our responsibility. That's our ability to strike against complicity. And so this is an opportunity for us to be in the abundant beauty of what is Palestinian culture. It's also an opportunity for us to see the intersections and the solidarity amongst all of these lived realities of, in many spaces, we see the moments of colonization, of
Mhm.
oppression, all these things. And we also see how we absolutely feel this truth that if it happens to someone else, it's happening to me. And that is the way that we wake up each day
Mhm.
and enter into each day. What can I do today that acknowledges that reality and gives even more power to the fact that we need to always be walking with the intention of what's being accepted by our societies presently is unacceptable.
Mhm.
We want to tell you that story through food in many ways this evening. We want to tell you this story through these ingredients. We want to tell you these stories through the fact that, earlier today we were in the farmer's market together, buying these ingredients together. We were in the kitchen at Reem's preparing this meal. We had these moments of what's really a privilege of intimacy around food. And we hope that's reflected in this experience for you as well. Because the power of that, it just matters. It just really matters. I would love to be able to introduce what we're doing this evening to everyone. We had the grace of a beautiful designer named Kamakshi Duhuru, who designed a zine for us. And this zine includes this menu and ingredients and recipes.
This
But it
is what it
also-
looks like when you print it out, but you all got this digitally,
Yes.
which also amazing designs.
I want to
from-
acknowledge Monica and Walid are the folks behind exactly Shrine. And they did these beautiful prints that we were able to get to use in this zine and be part of the storytelling also. And we want to start by telling you what we're doing this evening and invite you into the process. So there'll be a little bit of interplay between myself and Elizabeth as we're going through the evening. We want to get your input from the chat. I can see Elizabeth right now doing all this work of seeing where's everything and how can we bring it into the space. So thank you for being here with us as we navigate what it is to make this dish that is an incredible representation of the forever life of a people.
And we were gonna talk, maybe
Please do.
start with how
Yeah.
we first started
Exactly.
organizing together.
Exactly.
Through and around food, which is also kind of how we
Perfect.
ended up here. So Reem kind of put out a call to a few of us comrades last October, and that was what led to us forming Hospitality for Humanity. And we were thinking about the trajectory to this moment. And one thing I want to name is that in the face of Holocaust and and amidst such a nightmare that we're fighting so hard to stop, and they are refusing, the powers that be, we can also actually take a bit of comfort that from the fact that the relationships and the organizing we've been doing for years and years and years have allowed us to mobilize together in this moment. And so the first time that Reem and I came together to do this kind of movement building work through celebrating and learning about and from Palestinian food culture and food traditions was many years, 2017. I was working with the Palestinian Academic and Cultural Boycott Committee globally, and they were asking me to help mobilize to try to get the New York-based chef who was participating in Israel roundtables, this American Express funded and Israeli government funded gastro diplomacy festival in Tel Aviv, one of many, many, highly resourced, funded Israeli PR culture washing campaigns.
And to say that, I mean, they put millions of dollars, which just goes to show how powerful also the cultural boycott movement was at that time.
Yeah, and how powerful culture is.
Yeah.
And we could say this tiny, we could claim this tiny victory, which is that,
Yeah.
so they now no longer, they canceled that festival.
Exactly.
After, I think we did one more year of it, but so basically we came together with
Incredible.
another Palestinian woman chef, Imani Ahmed, and all of our comrades through FIG in New York
Mhm.
City, and hosted the asymmetrical table
Yes.
in opposition to Israel roundtable, right?
Mhm.
So talking about the power imbalances and the extractive and exploitative and destructive power dynamics that very much show up in Israeli cuisine, right?
Yeah.
And so we decided, instead of to like protest at the restaurant of the chef that was participating, to build a table and invite all of these colleagues in and create this delicious, inviting, welcoming place, and invited Black and Indigenous
Mhm.
and Latinx and
Mhm.
immigrant comrades who were also working towards, decolonizing their lands and cultures
Yeah.
to come. And it was a major moment in, restaurants in downtown Manhattan, where we were shifting the culture and we were breaking the silence and pushing back on the historic silencing and censoring of Palestinians and their allies.
Mhm.
And it was a really healing and powerful. We both had this experience of like, wow, we are so often faced with such vitriol and violent repression and unfortunately, and being censored and pushed aside and gaslit and all these things. And this was it. Wow, Palestinian liberation organizing can be so beautiful and nourishing.
But I think what was really, I mean, the first time we did it,
Yeah.
because we had 2 rounds of protesting, these round tables, but that first one, what was really apparent to us, very much like the moment we're in now, unfortunately, is that there's a real fragmentation of our movements,
Yeah.
right? And so it was a fresh perspective to be able to both invite those who are engaged in that really important community political organizing,
Right.
but see culture work as kind of a side thing.
Mhm.
Food sovereignty is that work over there, and this is like the political,
Right.
for them to see that, and then for the cultural work to see itself as embedded within a a bigger liberation
That's
struggle.
it.
And so
That's
you
it.
had these multiple communities intersecting over, I mean, an amazing menu. And that was just, I think we built from that. But it was a moment also where we were bringing in people who really, like, from the chef community, who didn't really know much about what was happening
Yeah.
in
But we're
Palestine.
instinctively in, critical thinking and open-minded.
Right.
Right.
So.
And so by the second year, like the following year,
Mhm.
we were actually able to get another New York chef to
Pull out.
Okay.
pull out.
Okay.
We got a
Okay.
petition.
Our campaign was
Our-
successful
yeah.
because all those people signed an open letter.
And they were pretty prominent folks. And the same light in October when
Yeah.
we put out a call to our community,
Yeah.
the petition to, and we took a really, really strong stance. I mean,
Yes.
at that point, I was devastated. At that
Mhm.
point, I had like lost over 10 members of my
Exactly.
family. And so
I'm
we were in
saying that.
crisis. We were like, we just need to get something out. It needs to be strong. And now it's crazy to think a year later, I've lost quadruple that, and, but in in that first month, even with the death toll, which we thought we would never be able to accept
Yeah.
10,000,
Yes.
but
Let alone over
alone-
200,000.
exactly, but that we had over 1,000 people who signed that petition within the first week.
Yeah.
And
I
they
think
still
some-
are. The pledge is still
Yeah.
on the site to sign. Mhm.
Yeah, and, so I feel like that was a culmination of the work that we've done over to move the needle.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not enough, right?
Mhm,
I think why we wanted to do this is like, it's important to have these nourishing moments, but we need what happens here to galvanize us in our heart, to move
Yeah.
beyond just feeling connected and good to actually
Yes.
feeling angry enough to take action, right?
And clear enough.
And clear enough,
Mhm.
right?
Because that's what I hear in your
yeah.
conversation about these folks that were like, I don't actually know where I'm standing. And now that I have information, I know, I'm
Yeah.
clear, I can take action.
Yeah,
It's
and
so
solid
important.
enough and feeling grounded enough that
Mhm.
like we are in community and we have each other's backs, because it's not gonna be,
Yeah.
it will absolutely not be easy
Mhm.
to take action, particularly now. I mean, if we're seeing what's happening there, we've
Yeah,
pushed I mean, we're willing to accept that, right? So it's coming.
yeah.
It's coming for us, and we're at this really, really unique inflection point of
Mhm.
history
Mhm.
where the stakes are just so high that this is beyond.
There aren't red lines anymore.
No,
Mhm.
no,
There's
no.
simply the acceptance of mass atrocity by whole governments,
Right.
right?
Right, so when we do
Unacceptable.
this,
Yeah.
when we do this, it's not just an act of like, oh, we wanna feel good and learn. No, we
Yeah.
wanna learn how to feed each other.
Yeah.
And stay grounded in our dignity, because it's coming for us,
Yeah.
you know?
And
So-
and I think I really appreciate what you're saying, Reem, about not seeing cultural work, wellness work,
Yeah.
care work as separate or somehow softer or something,
Yeah.
or to the side of strategic or organizing and movement building.
Not deserving of the center.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
in fact, it like saying I think something that brings us all together here
Mhm.
is that we recognize that we need to be tending to whole humans
Mhm.
and as organizers,
Mm.
like we need, and so we're doing this work that is prioritizing like sensuality and care and
Mhm.
somatic knowing, and we're not and we're also thinking about strategic campaigns and targeting complicit institutions
Right.
and in the case like of the movement building dinners that
We're building and fighting.
yes,
Yeah.
and right, that we're also bringing in comrades. Like we have to be right now, like doing the best we can as we're grief stricken, as so many folks are also feeling, having very legitimate trust and anger, you know,
And
distrust and anger and
anxiety
anxiety.
from- yeah.
We have to do our best to keep remembering that we're stronger the more that we make potential comrades actual comrades. And I feel like maybe as a segue into Reem telling us about what we're making here, I'll say just one more thing about I think also what brought us here together and how we're all working in our different spaces is that we know that the colonial playbook that was used in Palestine initially and continues now
Right.
is the same as what played out here in
Right.
Turtle Island and throughout all the different places that the global North and Europeans have instituted settler colonialism and
Yeah.
attacking and disrupting food traditions and food ways and human and natural systems is a huge part of that playbook. And one of the things that radicalized me for sure was seeing the way that the Israeli military occupation was so intentionally designed to disrupt any amount of traditional food production and
Right.
agriculture that somehow Palestinians were managing to continue.
Mhm.
And so this right here is that important cultural work and actual decolonizing on a material level work. So figuring out, like you were pointing out, how we in diaspora can help steward seeds so that as Palestinians in Gaza are rebuilding and
Right.
you know one day, hopefully as soon as possible, and throughout Palestine, just like with indigenous folks here, like all of us like working to help people reclaim,
Yeah.
restore their the ancestral foodways, that that is important on economic levels, on cultural levels, on health levels. And so this is a really important way for us to engage in decolonization work that is not just conceptual and symbolic. So that is why we are gathering around this table to cook right now a classic Palestinian dish that Reem is going to guide us through.
Thanks for the cue.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so we chose to do matlube today because, so matlube, I mean, all Arab dishes sound very sexy, but they're quite literal when you translate them. It literally means flipped upside down.
Sexy, literal,
Yeah,
right?
they can be both. They can be both.
That's kind of your brand.
It's kind of like the state of the world that we're in, I guess, flipped upside down. So, you know, let's,
Yeah.
I mean, if there's one thing is like also just the laughter and the joy, even in the midst of the
Yeah.
apocalypse, there's something very like,
Yeah.
empowering about that.
Yeah.
But the thing about matlube that is really special to me is that it is the one rice dish
Mm.
that connects all Palestinians
Right.
from original 1948 lands to the West Bank to Gaza to the diaspora. And no one matlube is like the other.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's like the magical thing of it. It's like,
Mhm.
and when we're so fragmented, the matlube is the thing that brings us together. And so, and it's a communal dish.
Yes.
It is not meant, as you can see,
Yeah.
the size of this pot.
What you
is
talking about?
not-
I mean,
yeah,
all-
It's not meant to be shared, by itself. And I grew up actually having it, with, usually you have it with a protein, right?
Yeah.
Stewed lamb
Mhm.
and eggplant. That's a
Mhm.
very Gazan way.
Mhm.
And then when I moved here to the Bay,
Right.
I found out they do chicken and carrots and potatoes to learn that that's what they do in the West Bank. And that's very much how we got fragmented in our access to food, right? That those things are actually a direct result of occupation, of displacement, of adaptation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if anybody is trying to make matlube in the Gaza right now, they do not have access to a
Right.
protein.
Right.
And so I always joke just to like, you know, there's like, no, it's with chicken and carrot. No,
Right.
it's with lamb, you know, just to like settle that quarrel. I just
Mm-hmm.
do it with vegetarian to appease everyone. But the reality is, there's so few ingredients
Mhm.
left to make this dish.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, we're just so lucky to have the abundance of all the ingredients we're gonna
Right.
use today, but it's a mosaic of rice and vegetables, in this really delicious,
Mhm.
broth.
Yeah.
That we're gonna be using, and we're gonna build it together. It's gonna be a very communal act, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll, you know, the most exciting thing about the matlube is the flip.
Yes.
As we call it, and you know, if you're lucky and you nailed it in the cook, it'll flip over like with this beautiful kind of
Mhm.
layered tower of rice,
Mhm.
and if you don't, that's okay.
Exactly.
It's equally as delicious.
Right.
And
It's a little
so
messy is
a little
okay.
messy, and yeah, so I don't know, are we gonna get into it? This
Let's
is like
get
half
into it.
demo, half
Yes.
conversation.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
And we also want to hear, and like I said, I'm going to shout out over to Elizabeth. Tell us in the chat, what's going on? Is anybody
I
else?
don't know, like, is
cooking
anybody
with us?
partaking with us? Yeah. Okay.
Oh my gosh, there's
Yeah,
also
so
about
yes,
20 different ways to
there
spell it.
are. That's Arabic.
Yeah, it's
No,
beautiful.
I mean, it's, you know, the language is a very fascinating thing, could
Mhm.
be a whole
Yeah.
session just on that, but maqlube, the qaf is the in written
Yeah.
form of Arabic gets pronounced, but in colloquial, the qaf gets like, it's like a
Yeah, yeah.
so that's why I say matlube, but some people say maqlube, some dialects,
A little
they're
bit
like really
harder,
hard
softer,
with their qaf.
Right.
So in Gaza, you'll hear that in some villages, you
Mhm.
know, the fallahi way, as they say, the farmer, like, you know, as Palestinians, actually, we're really, whether it's an urban seaport or, you know, Gaza was one of the
Yeah.
most central
Yeah.
in civilization. It's a seaport, it's the
Mhm.
you know, Suez Canal is right there.
Exactly.
It's where everybody kind of moved through, but we were still always connected to our land. We are a rural people, and so anyways, that's the
That's it.
Fallahi way we call it.
Yeah.
Fallahi.
Billahi, I like
Yes,
that.
of the land.
Of the land.
Peasant
The
power.
Peasant
It's
power.
on page 4 of your digital zine.
Or 5.
It's 4 or 5, depending on what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
is, I think you've placed the link to the zine in there actively too. So please click on that and follow along with that recipe.
Yeah.
And you're
Awesome.
sharing the screen with the zine right now.
Yeah.
Thank you
And
so much,
it's
England.
also in Reem's cookbook.
Yes, and it is also.
Now I feel like we're on a morning show.
I know, we gotta go through this fast.
I know.
Was there another question? Yeah, tell me.
Most say I had every ingredient except cardamom. It's stuffed, but was delicious. It's got a lot about the privilege to make it in the safety of my home.
Yeah.
Discussed briefly with my children what I was doing and why we were eating fish.
Mm.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Chinyere? Yeah, thank you so much for sharing the story of cooking all day long, finding what you needed in your pantry. Even if there's an ingredient missing, it's all right because that's your version. And just loving the fact that there's an intergenerational moment happening with this dish
Yeah.
with us today.
Yeah.
That always feels powerful. too.
And can I invite if anyone that's such a gift, like we need to hear that. We
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
hear, receive it, such a gift. Sometimes when we're doing this organizing work, we can't count what we have prevented from happening.
Yeah.
And, so it's always really fortifying to get that kind of exchange. So maybe people can, if you feel comfy and you are cooking or have cooked, you can, if you're on Instagram, you could post pictures and tag Hospitality for Humanity and maybe also the museum so that we can then
see.
share.
Yeah,
to
we want
see.
to know what's happening for other
Yeah,
folks.
we'd love to see. And
So
we're going to go ahead and stand up and get into
let's
it.
do it.
This is an all hands moment. Oh, are you okay? Oh, it's just your phone. That's okay. But you can see, and we'll have a little process pics for you as well. So you'll be able to see a representation of the layers we're making. But
This is not
this
the
is-
Palestinian way. This is the Reem hack.
but it's amazing hack.
Yeah.
This piece of circular parchment that goes in the
Yeah.
bottom.
I'm a pastry chef by trade. so
Yes.
We put the pastry on the bottom of the cake
So helpful.
to avoid
Uh-huh.
the burning or the sticking. Traditionally you would stew the meat, take the
Yeah.
meat out,
Yeah.
use the broth to put back
Mhm.
into the rice and
Mhm.
put the meat at the bottom, and that would help a little bit.
Mhm.
But since we're going straight for the vegetables, we want to prevent burning
Yeah.
from the bottom. So I have a little kind of parchment insert.
We might
would
drizzle some
drizzle
oil.
some oil in there, just
Yeah.
for some extra. All of this has been, so this recipe could seem tedious, but it's really, it's worth it. Yeah, you are frying a lot of things, but it really is worth it.
So let's do that rundown
Yeah,
first. We
so-
have the,
Yeah, so we chose some traditional items that are in every region. So the eggplant,
Mhm.
that we got from the farmer's market today,
Yeah.
fried by the lovely Ora. She worked fry station.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I
right?
worked
Live
fry
next to
station,
it.
Yeah. And you're just gonna, you wanna get that nice dark gold color and,
Chef approved.
yes. And you want it to hold its shape,
Mhm.
and then you season it after. So we season all along the way, so
Mhm.
just layers and layers of seasoning.
Mhm.
Beautiful cauliflower, Romanesco's in season. We were trying to look for that this morning. We were.
Although I
We
love this
loved all the
topic.
vegetables. We
Yeah.
wanted to put all of them in.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
There's a certain point where you have to kind of,
What's that
Yes.
over there, Ora?
yeah.
Oh yeah, these are our sunchoke chips that I think we're maybe gonna garnish with at the
A little
top.
bit in and a little bit over.
Yeah, so that and sunchokes are native to this land that we're in. My Italian heritage is how they became known as sunchokes
Mhm.
because they called them girasole because the
Mhm.
flowers that are connected to the tuber look like little sunflowers.
And
Yeah.
ironically, made people call them
Jerusalem
Jerusalem
artichokes. So somehow we're just
The evolution of all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also
We're
have,
reclaiming the appropriation.
yeah,
very-
we're Jerusalemizing the Jerusalem artichoke.
it was meant to
something.
happen.
Yeah.
We also I remember Reem saw these peppers. She's like, oh, those peppers. We have to have those peppers. So you did a beautiful charring of the red peppers and just gives that really smokiness to it that's so lovely.
And also we talked about that as being a kind of seasonal adaptation
Yeah,
because
thank
often
you.
it's with tomatoes,
Uh-huh.
but this is like the end of pepper
That's it.
poppin' season.
How can we get that color? How
Yeah.
can we get that
it's like
consistency?
we're right in the middle of it here in California.
Yes.
All the peppers, all the
That's
peppers.
true. But this is so
And-
California
and there's
too,
a
huh?
real
Yeah.
Oh, tell me,
practical
yeah.
element to this, which is the water content.
Yes.
Also helps from producing
Mhm.
sticking.
Yeah, I
So that's
like
why
that.
we put the tomato in.
I
Beautiful.
would also, while we're on the pepper
Yeah.
topic, is that and Leila Al-Haddad, who dear comrade and
Yeah.
sister in the
crime.
struggle, and whose recipes are also in the
From the Gaza
zine.
kitchen.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I feel like she and others were people who helped me learn initially about Gazan
Yeah.
cuisine, and that because of Israeli occupation, the siege, lest we forget that that has been,
Yeah.
that Gaza
Really
has been
was.
under attack and
16
besieged
years. Yeah.
for so many years,
Mhm.
but that, and so little water access
Right.
because of Israel's control of water in general throughout
Mhm.
the land, that Gazan cuisine tends to be spicier than the
Mm.
rest of Palestinian cuisine because peppers grow well without irrigation, and they're also really nutritious.
Right.
And you can dry them and rehydrate them.
Yeah.
There's so many things that
Yeah.
you can do
Yeah.
with them. Yeah.
It's
And we're
it's a
closer to Africa. Like,
Yeah.
that's like, yeah, it tends
Yeah.
to be,
True.
yeah.
True.
so
And I love
we-
that
that's- yeah.
presencing of how ingredients, adapting to ingredients, and they are a mode of survival. You know, what grows here, what grows now. You know, we've had so many examples of projects that are taking this moment to be in that world of what can we do? What can we grow?
Mhm.
And it is such an incredible telling of the story that we can have these report backs of, you know, what is the reality right now, and having that presence in this dish feels incredibly special from our perspective so far away to feel a little closer. And we also have such a California moment with this delicata
Yeah.
squash. And the delicata squash, you know, just cut so thinly, but it is that, you know, powerful presence of, you know,
California.
California,
And season.
and a bit of sweetness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's its own, delicata is its own love
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
It really is. And if you tell us, you know, in the chat, like what ingredients did you add to this and why? What are the things that are in season for you? I hope there's some folks from the global south that are dialed in to tell us what their story is when it comes to ingredients they share. Go ahead.
And the thing about matluba, when I make it for like staff meal or just like wherever I go to do my events,
Yeah.
the number one thing that people say to me is like, this feels so familiar.
I love that.
It is not
Yeah.
so different from jambalaya,
Yeah,
jollof
exactly.
rice, like biryani.
Exactly.
And every culture has this kind of
That rice
layered
dish.
rice dish,
Mhm.
right? That one pot meal.
Yeah, timbale.
That is like
Mhm.
very,
Yeah.
very.
That is for the crowd.
Yeah,
That
it's
is for the
crowd,
family.
It's a comfort food
Yeah.
and it's a, you know, it's something that's accessible,
Mhm.
you know, to even from the rich to the poor, I guess.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's a very comforting and familiar cuisine and why rice travels, just like bread.
Yeah, like
And
that.
then we have some beautiful green onions and some chunks of garlic, because I like
Yeah.
garlic. We cook down a vegetable stock with a lot of these ingredients and oh, I was gonna do a shameless plug for my 7-spice mix.
Oh, yeah.
But
Lovely.
baharat is a 7-spice that is it's
I'm the
traditionally
expert. Let me go
enjoyed
get it.
it's traditionally enjoyed in Levantine cuisine. It's a very kind of when the Ottoman Empire formed. So that's why you typically see it in Lebanese, Syrian, Palestinian, and Jordanian cuisine. And every family has their own version. Sometimes it's a 9-spice, it's a 7-spice, but it's this really beautiful mix of warming spices with some cumin and coriander, some smokiness.
Mhm.
This is the Reem's
Yeah.
collaboration with Burlap and Barrel Spice Company. It's also my cookbook if you wanted to make it on your own, but I think we have some alternatives recipe.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
also just want to point out something we did with this stock is what I call garbage soup, which is that we actually made the stock with a lot of the peels and ends and stems of all the things that we were chopping for the soup, so that then we are able to reduce waste and increase flavor.
Mhm.
And it's also more affordable. Like, I know a lot of people do end up buying stock
Right.
you know, in cartons or whatever, which like, obviously sometimes we gotta just, you know,
Do what we
get
gotta
it
do.
done. But what I do is I actually keep a bag in my freezer, and
Right.
as I'm like peeling onions or chopping garlic or, you know, peeling carrots or cutting the ends off of cauliflower or squash, that I then put them all in. And then when I have a bag, I just throw it in a pot of water and then strain.
it-
Yeah.
let
and
it
then-
reduce.
Yeah. And then you don't have to waste like additional
Right.
veggies. And those veggies kind of live a longer, fuller life.
A double and triple life.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know who the star of the show, they're all kind of competing, but the rice is the connector, the
Mhm.
cultural connector,
Right.
as we
Sure.
call it.
Right.
This is long grain basmati rice, which is very often enjoyed in Arab cuisine. So
Beautiful.
All right.
All
Where do
right.
we
Thank you for the
start, Chef?
rundown.
this is an art project.
I'm calling for
so,
eggplant.
Yeah.
Yes, I think eggplant is kind of the traditional way, and so you start by kind of doing concentric circles, if you will.
Sweet. And England, if you
Yeah.
could share that starting photo of process with folks so they can see
Oh,
what's
yeah.
going on in here. Thank you for that.
Yeah, please.
England is on the mix table right now. England, thank you so
Yes.
much.
Tech
And then
headquarters.
We'll leave a little space to,
Do some pepper.
yeah,
Okay.
so we're gonna
Like in
take these chunks of pepper
Yep.
and
It's like creating that mosaic.
that mosaic all around.
It's anticipating what will be the flip too.
Yes,
It's like, oh,
yeah, like
we're
what
creating
colors do we
the.
want to
it's like
see?
confetti.
Mhm.
Yeah. Again, that gives a
Alright.
little bit of liquid,
Yeah.
prevents the burning. But with the char, of course.
Did we want to do a second layer of eggplant or is it good? We'll just do one for this.
Oh, yeah,
This is just an example.
yeah.
This
This is a
is
big
so
pot
sweet.
too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then we're gonna lay down, let's say about, do we want to put
Perfect.
anything else? Let's sprinkle some garlic
Yeah.
chip,
Garlic is there. Yeah, I like that.
spring onion,
Some garlic in there.
all over. I wish we had an aerial shot here.
Yeah. Well, you have some from.
Yeah, England's giving
Yeah,
some insight there.
yeah.
This does look really pretty.
It's
Like a party.
like a party up in here.
Nice.
Yeah, which I really appreciated what you were saying, Reem, about like it's so important, the kind of militant joy. Like in the
Militant, we're
face
gonna
of-
enjoy this and it's our
God damn
resistance.
it.
I mean, that's what Palestinians are doing. We were just saying, like, if there's anything that we can learn, especially as a lot of us are scared, you know,
Right,
we
yeah.
are, like, I think there's a reality that people are really feeling not good in their bodies right now, that fear, that nervousness, but I'm
Yeah.
like, but if we watch the Gazans, you know, they're teaching us how to live in an apocalypse,
Yeah.
essentially, like, they're literally farming under the craziest conditions. They're building ovens under the craziest
Yeah.
conditions.
Out, literally
They're
out of,
out there, they're having
yeah,
birthday
soil.
Yeah.
parties, they're doing classrooms out,
Yeah.
you know, at any minute that
Mm.
they can be bombarded. So, you know, I think there's something really powerful about
It's
that
really
to learn.
powerful and it's instructive. So
Yeah.
we have the capacity
Yes.
to keep making choices each day that propel us forward toward
Yeah.
life.
Mhm,
And let's do that.
mhm.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
So now I'm sprinkling in the
Perfect.
delicata
Ugh.
here.
Oh, should we do some sunchokes? on
Yeah,
this
let's
other?
do sunchoke so we
Mhm.
don't forget that.
God, those are so nice.
They smell so good. With this lovely spice mix.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, and we put some Aleppo pepper for
That's
heat.
right.
And
Yes,
paprika,
and
which is
paprika.
my favorite.
Yes. And then
Some cauliflower.
perfectly fried, really.
Perfectly.
I know,
perfectly
hot
golden.
take, it's the only way that I
Like
like
cauliflower.
cauliflower. Um,
Yeah.
let's see, yeah, let's go the
Mhm.
second half of our rice. We're just gonna kind of nestle it, sprinkle it over. All right, A sprinkle of onions and
Mhm.
garlic.
And the delicata again.
Yeah,
Finish this
Ah.
off.
yeah, finish it off.
Okay.
Smells and looks so good.
All of that garlic, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because this is the
all of it.
last
But this is
time.
garnish. We'll do that garnish.
Okay.
We'll
That's
keep some.
perfect.
Got it.
Oh my gosh, we got to garnish. There
Is
you
that
go.
enough garnish?
I'm like, I wish we could show. I'm like,
Yeah, let's do a little. Let's do a little. Is that on there, England? A little bit of an angle? Thank
my
you
God.
for making sure.
I'm breaking the.
There we go. Break it.
I'm breaking the. what
Break
is
it.
called? The-
The third wheel?
The
Fourth
third
wall.
wall, the
Fourth
fourth
wall?
wall.
One of those. One of
Yeah.
those.
One of those
Yeah.
walls. I wish we could break more walls than that one.
That's basically it too.
Yeah, the wall.
The wall.
Yeah, all the walls. All the walls have got to go. Is it?
I mean, that was actually something that was
This looks so fall.
one of
It
the
does.
reasons that I ended up starting to work in food as a form of my, Palestine solidarity work
Yeah.
was that when I was spending a month in Jayus, a Palestinian farming village in the West Bank, when they were building the apartheid wall. So what was that,
Ah,
2003?
Yeah.
And what my job was every day was I was accompanying, they built the fence that was becoming the wall. They built it between the
Oh.
farmers, the village and their farmland.
Yeah.
So my job every day was to accompany the farmers through the Israeli checkpoints. So they could
Right.
go to their farmland.
All right.
It was obviously a very, very deliberate move. And that was very impactful for me to see that
The
system.
visual association of the, yeah.
And that these farmers were being forced to beg access to their ancestral farming lands from like 18-year-olds with
Right.
machine guns. It was,
Oh, so
Yeah,
crazy.
it's, reminds, well, a little bit different, but it's like about the water, like in 1994 when
Mhm.
I was actually able to go into Gaza and they were just building some of those like it was like predecessor of the wall.
right.
Oh,
These
okay.
kind of like watchtowers,
Right.
because they had dismantled their settlements, but the settlements were from the
Right.
top.
Oh,
And
man.
it was the only way you had to go through those kind of gate fences.
Right.
To buy water.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can't
there was
get,
no water.
And it's just such reconfirmation of the decades of
Yeah.
presence of
Yeah.
apartheid and the not rightness.
I
of
think that
this.
also so the soldiers in Jayus would,
Yeah.
when they felt like it,
All of
would
it?
at night go through the village and shoot holes in the water tanks.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that, and also one of the things, I think we've all encountered the ways that Zionists and, different people who are enabling and supporting Israel will say things like it's complicated. And I think agriculture and food helps us see how very not complicated it is.
Yeah.
And that this is a
Clear impact.
yeah, clear and about
Mhm.
controlling land and resources and
Yeah.
and conducting ethnic cleansing in order to control land and resources.
Yeah, I mean, when you literally hit the bakery
Yeah,
as the first thing, you hit the farm, you
Yeah.
prevent people from
Yeah.
accessing. I mean, it's,
and shoot holes in water tanks and
Yeah.
take away the water and burn down olive trees. I mean,
So
there's
very intentional.
there's no lack of clarity. There's no
Yeah.
confusion here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we were talking to someone yesterday, how
Mm,
a lot of these, I mean, these are on all fronts, but like Palestine is the testing ground for all these technologies that kind of do it a little bit more covertly. Now they're
Yeah.
doing it more overtly, but
Yeah.
like these technologies of controlling water are being used right here in the
Mhm.
US. You're seeing it in places like Fresno in the Central Valley where communities are finding ways to circumvent that and
Yeah.
create their own irrigation system, but it's the same companies that are controlling
Right.
the water.
Yeah, and agribusiness.
Yeah, yeah.
It's these corporate enormous farms.
Yeah.
We're
Thank
doing
you.
we're
Yeah.
doing a little moment
Yeah.
of reality.
So what we were doing here was just pouring in the broth ever so carefully, so not to ruin our layers.
Yeah, I love how you were showing it to me in the kitchen. It was like such a delicate process of
Yeah.
really tending to the outside of the dish first. It's like, don't disrupt it. Don't just
Yeah.
pile it on.
Yeah.
Be gentle, be tender
Yeah.
with this dish that's in such,
Yeah,
specific and lovingly made layers. It's like, that's such care,
Yeah.
that's part of the recipe too.
I
yeah.
was noticing how tender you were.
I was trying.
Thank you.
I was trying.
you. And so then the next step is obviously this, that broth was just it was
Yes.
a boiling boil.
Yeah, that's what it is. And thank you for
Yeah,
reminding
yeah,
us
yeah.
for saying
Yeah.
that. It is
You didn't
time.
see
You didn't see it, but it was
in our
boiling.
non-kitchen
Yeah.
presentation. That's a boiling broth. So it's
Yeah.
starting the cooking process already.
Yes.
It's not going from cold. It's not,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
very much the
yeah.
cooking process has begun.
Yes.
And the other trick that you did,
Yeah.
which is essential for right
Yeah.
here, is let's also caretake the fact that when food is boiling, it wants to move, right? And your response to that was, let's get a dish that is just short of this radius, a little bit smaller, and place it on top of the vegetables and rice so that they don't move too much as they're
Yeah.
cooking. I love that
That is
too.
one of the most common memories I have of my mom's
Yeah.
kitchen was her pressure cooking dishes that needed to be like stuffed grape leaves. or
Right,
mousse
they need to
amande.
be.
They need to
Mhm.
be compact.
Yeah.
She would always have like her, throwaway.
Right,
Like, it
exactly.
didn't matter if they cracked
Exactly.
or
It's
like
like
if they
the
were
weight you
chipped.
use when you're
Yeah.
pickling.
Yeah, that's
to
it.
Keep
Yes,
it under the
weight.
bone.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So you're gonna put a weight on this, you're gonna bring it to a simmer and then bring it down to like a medium to low heat.
Yeah.
And just let it, don't
Mhm.
touch it, and
Right,
do not
right.
feel tempted to rev the
Look-
heat up to cook it. It is, 4 cups of water to like 1.5 cups of rice. It's like purposely,
Right.
Low and slow.
That
low
ratio.
and slow, right? You don't wanna burn it,
Yeah.
so otherwise your stuff will be stuck. And I've done that many
Yeah.
times, so.
That's part of the
Speaking of
learning. If anybody
experience.
out there is having that experience of, oh
Yeah.
no, it's okay.
No
And-
shame.
And so once, I mean, you'll start to see, you'll see like the morsels of rice that are cooked
Yeah.
on top, that you wanna let it sit.
Hmm.
You don't wanna flip it over right off.
Let it rest.
Yeah, let it rest,
Mhm.
like all things.
It melts together
Yeah,
after it cools
yeah,
a bit.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
it's
then-
definitely
The
about
weight, the
patience.
weight is down. Yeah, patience is it.
Yeah.
And then it's topped also during that cooking process.
Yep, yeah.
There's another maybe a trick in there if you want to let it rest with a towel on
Yeah,
top or with
yeah.
parchment on top for the
Parchment,
steaming to
for the
happen.
steaming
That can
to-
also be part of it.
Exactly.
But
I
we
feel like
are
that's what they
doing,
do in Iranian culture, right, with the
Mhm.
tadeh. Like
Right.
every culture has, a version of this.
but we're doing kitchen magic now.
Kitchen magic. Yeah.
Voila.
Oh my God.
Drum
looking
roll.
at, Like,
Me.
I was like, we need like maybe a fork or
Oh,
something
this is
sharp.
good.
I
Mhm.
wanna just
Loosen
loosen
up the buttons,
Yeah.
babe.
loosen
The buttons. babe.
There you go. And I just want to do a little shot of this real
Yeah,
quick.
okay.
So this is all cooked together and it's rested, right? And so this is what's going to come from all of your care.
So we can.
Do a little before and
culminate
after.
here with our-
Take this show on the road.
Yeah. have
I
a
like
good
breaking the
feeling
fourth
about
wall.
this.
It smells so good.
Is that enough?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so. You see these like men doing these like pots that are like 3-4 times and then they just like flip it like that. I cannot do that.
That's not a thing.
So-
Also, men can really manage to make anything
Yeah.
macho.
Put it on me? Do you want to put it on me?
You want to put it on you?
Yeah, do you wanna do it?
it?
I feel like
So
if
the
if I do it,
traditional-
then it's all good.
It's
That's the traditional, tell me.
You can do it on your head.
Hey, are we gonna do that? Is that the challenge today?
mean-
Okay, I have an Afro puff.
Yeah,
You ready?
you have cushioning.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
One. Oh, hold on. We gotta do.
We have to do the knock.
Yeah,
Is there a knock?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. It's
the
a
knock
we'll
after.
do the knock after. Yes.
Y'all,
Are
the
you doing it on your
things.
head?
I'm
The
absolutely-
things you do for the cause.
Yeah. Good.
You felt it. You felt
That
it
was
drop.
very cathartic. But now is the getting down part.
Yeah, we got you.
I feel like I'm back in Mali. This is sweet.
Yay.
Okay. Got it?
Jocelyn, you are
Drop.
so brave.
Big man. And traditionally, you wanna
You have that hollow sound.
Sure,
If you have
yeah.
the hollow sound, it's dropped.
Also, this is evidence of how you have to use all your senses in cooking,
Yeah.
like hearing, like smell, all of it.
Okay, wait for it. Okay, there we go.
Wow, you're so generous. Okay, ready, guys?
Little
Oh
wig.
my God. And that's the parchment. That's
That's the
cool. That's
parchment.
cool.
Feel it?
Oh my God.
Oh, I
There it is.
Here,
I love it. Yeah. and there.
yeah, you can just put it in.
Perfect. Wow. I love.
You wanna go show it off?
Hold on, we gotta
Oh, right.
garnish it. So you can garnish this with parsley, or any kind of herbs you have. We have the rest of our green onions. Some
We're doing,
almonds, pine nuts. We're doing sunchokes here. We're just gonna keep it all veg.
That's beautiful.
Jocelyn, I am so impressed with you.
I'm gonna
I
try.
have to say, you
That's
really
my-
earned my respect.
It's
there.
basically my the motto of it all is just
Yeah.
keep trying.
Yeah. And also
That's
you,
beautiful. Can you break the fourth wall
Can we,
with that?
can we, yeah. Also, can we take a shot before we?
Yes, please do that.
if you want to take your phone out.
Yeah.
Here it
It's on
is.
the floor.
Do the work.
Yeah.
It's our social media
Like, I
strategies.
literally, yeah, no, put your hand there because your nails look cute, which is always impressive. Guys.
You gotta go from this angle too to see the
Oh,
height.
The height.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there we
From
go.
that side? or
Oh my
from this
God.
side?
I'm obsessed
My
with us
apologies,
doing this
Nicholas.
on camera.
I feel like it's appropriate
We would
feel
do
like
this
it's totally
in our
appropriate.
kitchen, that's true.
for you.
Here you go. I wish then if we were doing this, I would have taken a picture of it on your head,
Oh, that's
Jocelyn.
right. But it's on camera. It's fine.
It's on camera.
We have proof.
You all saw it. You.
We have
lucky enough
it.
to
It's
see
so
it.
pretty.
We totally do.
Now I can't stop. Okay, take this away from me.
Those are yours.
Thank
We use
you.
yours as the scraper there. Thank you. Wow.
Wait, and so we're accompanying it.
Yes.
Did people see this though? We didn't actually.
Oh,
Um,
we forgot. to change
we did, we did.
Our
we went, but
baby.
Thank you so much, England. It really is such a loving, it really does feel like that, like all the care that you put into it, all the story that went into it. It's a beautiful dish to be able to share for sure. But there's something else that was part of the cooking we did today.
Yeah.
And it was the purslane stew. Because that's what happens on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
live, y'all.
We didn't find purslane today, though.
Yeah, it's funny because it is in season, but
And what we were talking about was that purslane is often treated or considered a weed.
Right.
But many cultures, like people from Cambodia to Palestine,
Right.
eat it. And I've been in gardens and farms where people are
Mhm.
like, no, wait, don't. It was like growing between the crops they had planned.
Yeah, intentional.
Yeah, and then and so we were talking about how one man's weed is another man's treasure.
It just is. And this substitution you made is also like in that world of just like, oh my gosh,
Totally.
this is lamb's quarters. And also there's some watercress that you added in there as well. So if there's not purslane, make
Yeah,
the other
I agree.
choice and the
I
choice
mean,
is good.
I think like particularly now people are enjoying, enjoying whatever you want to, subsisting off of whatever they can find and
In
Right.
Gaza.
yeah, in Gaza right now. And
Right.
you know, right now, that's the common mallow. That's like the thing that is
Yeah.
just growing, like that people can find and are collecting.
Right.
I mean, that plant is so resilient.
Yeah.
It grows in the cracks in the
Not unlike our
sidewalks.
people.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it grows in
Yeah.
cracks and sidewalks in New York
Yeah,
City.
Yeah,
like-
yeah.
amazing.
And we're a foraging culture,
Mhm.
right? Like we really listen to what the land
Thank you for
creates
that.
for us. And so, yeah, people are using, instead of kind of the traditional dandelion greens,
Yeah.
purslane, all these things that once grew so abundantly,
Mhm.
but that
Mm.
also in the West Bank under the pretenses of conservation,
Yes.
that Israelis do not allow Palestinians to
They've
forage.
criminalized it.
Yeah.
So destroy the farms and outlaw.
outlaw
The
basically.
foraging.
The
but-
wild plant.
Which is,
Yeah.
foraging.
hasn't stopped us one bit, and
Yeah.
that's like an act of resistance, like, we're gonna
Exactly.
find whatever we can.
It's
to
also-
make delicious, nourishing meals.
It's also very
I'll give that to you to serve.
familiar. I mean,
the rest.
here, the kind of colonial environmentalism, right? Like indigenous people being prevented from hunting or fishing or, you know, doing certain ancestral food gathering here in North America has
Yeah.
also happened a lot.
Yeah, I mean, again, the playbook is not that sophisticated. that
Yeah,
I would say colonialists are the most internationalist because they get their notes.
Yeah, from each other.
Yeah, and in fact, some of the earliest, writings from the Zionist movement
Yeah,
referenced America, and like, they're not
Yeah.
even ashamed about it. It's like reference the genocide here, in the
of
US
indigenous folks.
of indigenous folks
mhm.
as kind of tactics and
Yeah.
strategies. So,
and
And
Zionism
that's why
was-
we know this strategy is pervasive. It goes, it's a feedback loop that is constant. If
Yeah.
it's happening somewhere, it's happening to us.
yeah,
If it's happening in Congo or Sudan, it's happening to us everywhere. And that's those perpetual motion strategies that just fly around the globe to highlight this fact that there is so much to be gained from us seeing each other's experience. And even as you're describing these greens, like what green do you choose? If you don't have what you think, where can you go? Dandelion greens, lamb's quarters. That was my mom's story that she told me. My mom is watching right now. Say hi to mom.
Hey.
And, I am emboldened by those stories as
Yeah.
well. Like I find survival in those stories. Like, oh, this isn't possible. Don't worry, child, this is.
yeah,
Don't
yeah.
give up on choices. Don't give
Yeah.
up on trying.
yeah.
And I think that's so much of our experience too, of how we stay present every day and
Yeah.
clear on what steps we take
Mm.
into action.
And sometimes we need reminders. I mean, those of us who have been severed from our foodways and are trying to find our way back to ourselves. Like I discovered dandelion greens were a thing in Palestinian culture after I discovered what a dandelion greens here in California.
Right.
My mom was like, oh yeah, Hinge Bay, we've always been, I'm like,
Yes.
how come I never grew up with that? It's like, because we're on the East Coast. Stop,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So I think the more we share stories, the more we're like, oh, we do that,
Yeah.
like that. Culture is exchange, and that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And instead of getting usurped and
Mhm.
appropriated
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
us, that there's this beautiful way of the intersectionality of our cultures,
Right.
right?
The intersectionality wins, the diversity wins. We know that, that's the disease of colonization as well. It's just like it fights against these inherent instincts for relationship, for reciprocity. That's what's healing and that's what's human.
Yeah.
And these dynamics of these outrageous dynamics of humanity that we're seeing, it's so against what is possible when human beings are in the world together on purpose together. Stop fighting that. Let that be. Let that happen. And it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And I love that that's the blessing for this meal for us together. We've been talking, just to be transparent about the fact, we've been talking with each other for over a month now about how we wanted to bring this evening together, what we wanted it to contain. And I feel like it's so beautiful that we have a chance, like I said, and England, I'll actually ask you to bring up the image, I think that you have of the Palestinian and Pan-African flag. You still have that one? We weren't able to have it in the space, but this morning at the farmers market, we also were able to connect with Bryant Terry, the past chef-in-residence of Moad. And one of his present art projects is that solidarity between cultures, between peoples, highlighting how profound and long that connection has been between specifically Black and Palestinian folks. That's real, it's powerful, and it's an indicator also of what liberation can look like. And I'm grateful we have so many examples of that that we can turn to. And I'm glad that this food manifests that as well.
Yeah. And I want to honor and thank you for helping rebuild some bridges that actually Bryant's flag is representing also, because when he was handing it over to us,
Right.
he was talking about how, you know, I can't, 68 or 69, I can't remember the exact
Oh,
year,
right,
but the
right.
Pan-African
Mhm.
Cultural Festival
Mhm.
Congress was when the PLO and the Black Panthers met,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And there were, and we, members of AROC,
Mhm.
and Malcolm X grassroots
Right.
movement, and community movement builders, we all just went on a delegation to the north of Ireland.
Yeah.
And we're also in doing that, kind of trying to revitalize
Mhm.
these powerful internationalist connections that actually
Historically.
historically,
there.
yeah, throughout the global South, and like these anti-imperialist
Mhm.
struggles here and in the, you know, Ireland and throughout Africa,
Yeah.
and with Palestinians. And
Mhm.
those were connections that Israel and the US worked very hard to sever.
Right.
So I'm glad that Bryant
Mhm.
brought that history in with and creating a future. I know, you know, because that
Mhm.
flag is new.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think, yeah, I think like as we rebuild these, like we have this opportunity. with
Hey,
these
I don't know what
new
y'all are doing, but I'm gonna
generations.
eat.
I mean, we were having a gathering yesterday. And like
Yes.
Bryant brought his kids and
Yes.
his 13-year-old was
Mhm.
reading Rashid Khaledi's book.
Exactly.
He's like learning about Palestine and, you know, I'm just
Exactly.
like, that is what we're doing now. We are cultivating, creating fertile ground
Yeah.
for the struggle to continue. And there's gonna be short, hard,
Mhm.
but necessary moments where we're gonna need each other. Like, we need to learn how to take care of one another in
Yeah.
crisis, and history shows us that we are capable.
Yeah.
But also with that, we're cultivating this new generation that's gonna do things different, right?
Yeah.
Who's gonna get ahead of this fragmentation,
Yeah.
right? How do we, again, build while we fight? How do we
Mhm.
build these dual systems in the kind of spirit of what the Black Panther Party was trying to do, and do it a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
And to learn from the mistakes, right? That we made.
Yeah.
How do you
Thank
feel about
goodness
the
for that.
macaroni?
It's so
I don't know.
It's like, if it's possible, it's like the creamiest rice
Mhm.
dish I've ever had, because
Mhm.
everything has melded together
Yep.
The
slowly.
spices are so good. It tastes meaty, actually.
It
Yeah.
does. And the
Mm.
smokiness too.
Mhm.
I love this. Thank you.
You're welcome.
From my afro to you.
I don't have a squash. I'm
No,
taking
I'll take
yours.
my squash. I'll take my squash.
Again, communal dish.
Yes, yes.
It's
You
meant
guys
to
have
be.
Try this too.
Oh, yeah. So, and this was, I think, a recipe we included that's from Sister in Struggle,
Yeah. it's good
Layla,
too.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Also, you were making me think that we're all in this work also in a way inspired by the
Mhm.
Panthers, again, saying survival programs pending political revolution.
Right.
And that is like something they said that is
Yeah.
my collective big motto, and saying we need to be literally feeding people,
Mhm.
and doing, and also like you were talking about with AROC, like AROC, the Arab Resource and Organizing Center, is doing legal clinics and stuff. Like,
Mhm.
we need to be tending to people's daily needs and
Right.
survival needs while building,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
while
Helping-
building
helping them
revolution.
That
connect
is
the dots, right?
Absolutely
Like,
ancestral instructions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
We gotta change people's material
Yeah.
realities now and be able to talk to people and, you know, use these mediums like,
Mhm.
you know, organizing. I guarantee you at the heart of every revolution, there was some component of food.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Single one. And
Yeah.
it's one of those beautiful things. As a co-founder of People's Kitchen Collective, we also very much live into that tradition, the
Yeah.
Black Panther Party survival programs. And, you know, specifically how radical and controversial this free breakfast for school children was.
Yeah.
It literally
That
changed
in and of itself is instructive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These systems
Very
that
telling.
find the challenge in the food waste.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
oh, that nourishment will make our children prepared to learn and,
Yeah.
and
It'll
to
make them smarter
thrive.
and sharper and
That's dangerous.
yeah.
Yeah.
Gardens that are in urban territory, you know, that are thriving despite destruction. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
That needs to be attacked.
Yeah.
The things that are attacked are instructive of the fortification that we need in our communities.
Amen.
It really, really is. And like I'm tasting this
Oh, it's so good.
this stew, like as we're having this
It's so
conversation
good. I
about
have
what's
to keep eating
possible.
it.
It's like this is
Where's our yogurt?
I
Yeah,
know,
this is
that's
good with
good.
yogurt.
Yeah.
There is the balance of warming with cooling.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the spices, why can't we put spices through a camera? Elizabeth, tell us
They're
about
tickling off
people.
our tongue.
Tell us about people, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so we can keep eating.
There is a seasonal vegetable. The farmer.
That is a true story. Did you say Libby? Hi, Libby. It is definitely a seasonal experience for Slane, and it is in season presently. We
Here.
love it. Yeah, here.
Through the winter.
We
Yeah.
always need to say Northern
They're
California.
Northern California.
Um,
Not anymore. It's done.
there are people that grow it on purpose and provide it to us, which is such a sweetness.
You got it.
It is sometimes found in farmers markets. Often we will go ahead and do a shout out. Berkeley Bowl tends to be reliable with purslane, but it's spotty as well. So you need to find your supplier and keep going back to them.
I feel like it's in a lot of Central American cuisine.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
So go to your local.
Yeah, your Latinx markets
Latinx
can be a
markets.
better option sometimes because they know the truth, and that often is helpful when sourcing
Yeah.
vertilagus or excuse me, or purslane. What else is happening over there?
Joyce says hello from the Philippines.
Oh.
Hey.
Last year and tried making it at work and shared an Instagram video that she shares a lot.
Wow, all the way from the Philippines.
Oh, thank you for
That's
that.
amazing.
He says used our local grain, brown rice, and different vegetables. So I asked vegetables, but eggplant, potatoes, bell peppers, carrots, leeks, tomatoes, aromatics, and added some chicken as well.
Oh,
Sweet. Thank you, Joyce. I love that you're here from Philippines and acknowledging all that's happening there too, and just grateful for your presence.
yeah.
And this idea that we can, it makes me so happy. Like this shared experience of this dish can reach so far. And that report back of the story of it from all the different parts of the globe. It's a reaffirmation of a story being shared meaningfully and in a way that is inspiring action, you know, and that's the power of food to translate something that's so critical, you know, that's so important. It's present for us and we can feel it, we can taste it, and we can do something about it. So grateful for that. It's good.
It's so good. I'm like, am I allowed to take more on camera? Our friend at the movement building dinner we did last night, Brooke, mentioned, we were talking about this today, that we both loved how she said, when we had asked everyone to share something, you had asked everyone to share something about their relationship to food. What's deep one, and this is something I find a lot of the time, is that in the dominant culture here, makes people very nervous and feel alienated if they don't have like some kind of professional, you know, that we create this separation. And there are.
I don't have a relationship to food was something that was said. It's like, every single day you have a relationship.
Yeah.
And just wanting to make sure everybody feels and knows that.
Whether it's a hard relationship or a positive, you know,
it's there.
But I think that that's one thing also being in a country that was built through settler colonialism, and then people who are living, you know, are all immigrants of varying generations. Right. That there is a lack of connection. You know, there's a lot of alienation and loss of ancestral food knowledge. But she was saying that her mentor, her organizing mentor, she was a professor, and that she was our friend Brooke was her teacher's aide and was like, okay, well, what are we gonna read? What's the book list? And her mentor said, no, first, what are we going to feed them every time they
That's the first word.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and
I love that.
yeah, which I wish more people, first of all, I wish more
Well, that's the
professors would like that.
fundamentals of organizing,
Yeah.
but I think even more so like I think we don't value ancestral relational knowledge. We think like all of our political awakening has to come through the books, right? Which is like a very inaccessible, it's important to do the reading and the study,
Right.
but also we know in our bodies, we know in our family histories,
Mhm.
some of the solutions to our problems,
Right.
right? And we don't value that kind of really, experiential knowledge, so to speak. And so I think that is really important. I just want to also say like our relationship to food is also economic,
Yeah.
right? And I don't want to understate
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
like
Big time.
food systems, it is so interconnected with every single sector,
Mhm.
every single issue area, from health to tech to,
Yeah.
the economy, that we can't talk about these other systems without somehow talking about food. And so there's like a power in that.
Ooh,
We
excuse me.
can like actually put something in that cog.
Right, right.
Well,
to-
it's a strategic site of struggle because in working on and in food systems, we are able to challenge the way the dominant systems are working,
Right.
in terms of
means of production, ownership, all of those things.
And it all goes back to access.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
And so when we started Hospitality for Humanity, it was really important that we positioned, because in the age, for better or for worse, of social media and the age of the celebrity chef or whatever, like there are people within our community that are leaders and can
Mhm.
move people, and it
Mhm.
matters,
and chefs are culture bearers.
Yeah, they're culture bearers, they're cultural stewards,
Absolutely.
right? And so there is something really important about just taking a stand.
Mhm.
But we wanted to move beyond just kind of acts of solidarity to like real movement, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing on the local level to disrupt this? Whether it be not really making sure that you are not sourcing in
Right.
your restaurants or your business from businesses that are connected to the
Right.
Israeli regime,
Right.
right? And or it's about these systems, right, that are actually profiting, right? These corporations that are actually profiting from the genocide and
Yep.
the illegal occupation of Palestine,
Whether it be
right?
technology firms
Yeah.
or ammunitions or weapons or,
Right.
any of
Like
these.
investments, but like also I'm just gonna, because we're
The-
talking about food,
Yeah.
summer hummus, that has 60% of the hummus market. That is insane that it dominates, that all of that revenue is
Mhm.
generated to uphold
An
such
apartheid
a
state.
violent
Mhm.
system,
Mhm.
right? That hummus can be an agent of violence,
Mhm.
so like those simple
Mm.
acts, right? Like these kind of strategic,
Yeah.
targeted, but then also it comes down to the very, like, as a consumer, where do we choose to invest our money? Like, who
Mhm.
do we choose to be mouthpieces for these, like right now, Arab foodways, and even leading up to this genocide, were like the thing, right?
Mhm.
They were the fad. It was like
The
za'atar
thing-
and lebne was on every menu.
Yeah.
Like, we need to disrupt that. We need
Well,
to
but
be-
also because the problem being that the ingredients and the preparations became food trends in non-Arab owned
Right.
food companies and restaurants, while the people who created and stewarded these ingredients and crops and recipes for generations were continuously being invisibilized and having their own ability to access these food traditions
Mhm.
destroyed. So that's like why,
The
where
two sides of it.
the problem
Mhm.
is,
Right.
like it's not just like, oh, we're at, because I think a lot of white defensive backlash and, you know, would be like, what, we can't cook each other's food or something. It's like, no. The problem is
Yeah.
when you're extracting and monetizing, you know, and commodifying these food ways, either these dishes
And
or
it's having a
ingredients.
negative impact.
Right,
a
and you're
measurable-
profiting off of them.
Literally, the
while they're
production of
destroyed, yeah.
those are made on settlements, right? Like,
That's the other
I
layer.
can't
Yeah.
avoid a tahini in restaurants that
Mhm.
has not been made in
Mm.
Israel. Like,
Mm.
that is a problem. Tahini is
Mhm.
a long-standing tradition of my ancestors. And I can't access an ingredient because it literally plays into the system.
It's been monopolized into that
is
area specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is
Wha-
ethnically cleansing my people.
Right,
Oh my
and while
gosh.
specifically during the
Oof.
siege before this past year, during the many years of that Israel is besieged Gaza, one of the specific, they would control, and some of this has been come out now, you know, in terms of how they've deliberately controlled like the calories that, you know,
Yep.
Gazans could access,
Yep.
just keeping people barely above
Just below,
starvation.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like at the
Yeah.
level of survival, but also specifically targeting specific,
Called the Gazan diet.
right, and yes, and targeting specific Gazan preparations or ingredients like black tahina was it, yeah, and red tahina were specifically put on the like no-go list at the checkpoints, which is obviously about trying to destroy the local culture.
Yeah.
You know, and then we have it here, and just for the record, in case people are interested in learning more about, you know, joining the boycott and divestment and sanctions movement and being strategic, you know, I do find it helpful that the BDS movement says we're targeting complicity, not identity.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's important because we want to make sure to build as effective campaigns as possible and reduce any attacks. And then also that all within that, all
Yeah.
Israeli agricultural products are boycottable,
Mhm.
because as Reem was pointing out, they are all the exported agricultural products are complicit in the resource theft and land grabs, and you can't also
The
they
produce.
yeah, they don't differentiate between international, even according to international law, illegal Israeli settlements
Yeah.
and the rest of it. And also, as somebody who used to live there and loves and cares about that land, like Israel has since day one been replacing traditional Palestinian agricultural techniques, which are more regenerative and gentler and more harmonious with the land, with agribusiness, you know,
right.
and so that's like what Reem was saying earlier about here in Central Valley, you know, that there's just these horribly extractive monocropping and, you know, irrigation that just like robs everyone else of the water. And so that has been going on since day one with the building of the state of Israel.
Right.
Yeah, even
Thank you for that
pre-1948. Yeah,
Even then.
yeah, and also the planting of what do you call it? Like
Mm.
non-native
Oh, right.
plants,
Right.
right? Which make it impossible for any indigenous
Mhm.
plants to grow around them. Like those were very, very like invasive plants. That was very intentional, and kind of the usurping of
Mhm.
farmland, of making it almost impossible for those who are living off the land to actually make a living or
Mhm.
subsist.
Mhm.
It's a pretty sinister, it's really sick, actually. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. I was mobilized as a young person
Mhm.
as part of this kind of cover up. And the specific way I'm thinking of is that early Zionist settlers and militia who murdered and expelled Palestinians, and some of them emptied, you know, in 47, 48, they sometimes emptied villages and expelled everyone or destroyed the villages completely. And they planted trees on those villages, destroyed villages, and they used, I grew up being like, come plant a tree or, sponsor a tree.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
felt so good about it.
yeah,
You know what I
because
mean?
that's so
So
manipulative.
righteous about it.
Yeah, I was like, yes, planting trees is good, right? And
That's
that
how
is
it
sick.
happens.
Yeah.
That's how it happens. And I believe in this moment, all, like you mentioned, all the unlearning that's happening around those kinds of propaganda moments for so many people, that awakening is powerful. And that's the other part of solidarity going into action.
We must be vigilant. We must question everything, right? Nothing is as it seems. And I know that that is kind of hard, right? Because we just want to enjoy
our
our food,
responsibility.
but like we're not in that moment anymore. We can't just like try to compartmentalize what it goes beyond our plate, right? So
Oh, thank you for that. And the other thing I want to bring in, I did a time check, y'all.
oh,
We
Yeah, I
have
have
30
no idea
I
what
know,
time
me
it
neither.
is.
I had
Yeah.
the same moments, like
Yeah.
it could be 8 o'clock.
yeah.
We do have 30 minutes left,
Uh-oh.
and there's so much that you lovingly and intentionally put into this zine resource that we wanted to also make sure that we highlighted and amplified. The thing that I want to start with is still in this conversation, another part of the conversation we're having right now around access and self-determination, collective determination around ancestral foods. And tell us the grower of these seeds.
Oh yeah, do you want to talk about throw?
Yeah, so these are from Thoraya, which is a project out in Petaluma by a dear comrade, Nadia, but I'll shout her out. I hope she's watching. Like this, I think like,
I mean, look at this.
yeah, the propensity of
So beautiful.
Palestinians against all odds to smuggle seed.
Mhm.
We're like, you will not get rid of us. I mean, that's the thing that we have,
Right.
right? And we will put seed everywhere, like we will literally.
Yeah.
And our plants, all
And
of
just, and I was
yeah.
saying, earlier, even just the instinct to know, to grab the
Right, to
seeds.
grab the seed.
Wherever you
exactly.
are going,
Yeah,
not knowing where you're
yeah,
going,
yeah.
that's a priority.
So-
We know that it, kidnapped and enslaved Africans did,
Right,
and
exactly. It's no
indigenous folks
different.
forced off their land
Right.
did,
Yeah.
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 And there,
And-
go ahead.
Oh, well, so, I mean, I think what, is also really important is like, those are kind of acts of resistance of people who may never get to see their homeland, is how do we create homeland wherever we go? Right? Beyond the borders, beyond the, like, how do we return back to the land taking care of us no matter where we are? And I think that's something really beautiful. This is a piece of Palestine
Yeah.
right here in California. These seeds are from Palestine.
So
I'm not sure if she sourced these from the seed library. We can shout out
Oh,
Vivian
yeah.
Sansour, who has a seed library that she's been saving seed and was based in the West Bank for a long time and is I think now doing projects in upstate New York. But this seed is the seed of the mlochia, which is also referred to as jute or Jew's mallow. Some people say it's the okra leaf. I think it's a close cousin, but not quite that.
Right.
but
The
it gets
Filipinos-
gelatinous, like
Yeah, it's mucousy. We use it can be either stewed down into like a soup. I grew up having it with rabbit. You can do it
really?
with chicken, yeah. I love to do it with fish. It's just like a really beautiful and very nutritious
Yeah.
green. The Filipinos use it and they call it sulayut. I bet you that
Nice.
there are other cultures
Mhm.
that use the same. I mean, those are the things that are so fascinating
Yeah.
to me when we share our cultures. That
This
is
watermelon seed.
watermelon seed, as we know. The
And somebody-
watermelon has become
And
kind
this
of
is
like
the one.
Yeah, this is
the
one of
safe
those-
way to talk about Palestine. Sometimes it is, I mean, it's pretty revolutionary of like, watermelons
Yeah.
in general. We've subsisted in the land off of them for many, many generations, but actually the settlers have been like, what do you call it? doing genetic modification and hybriding and all these things and
What survives
yeah,
death,
what
what
survive,
tastes
yeah, yeah, so it's a little, there's a whole political, backdrop to the watermelon, but when in the 60s, when it was outlawed
Right.
for Palestinians to wave the Palestinian flag, the
Mhm.
watermelon, they started waving the watermelon because it's the same color as the
Again,
Palestinian flag.
outlaw whatever you want to. We're
Yeah.
gonna find a way.
We're gonna find a way,
Yeah.
right? And it's been amazing to see the acts of solidarity of people
Mhm.
putting, the watermelon. But just to remind folks of like, it's really important not to disconnect story from
Yeah.
food, right? Like that
Mhm.
always, if you learn more about the food and these symbols, there's always a story behind it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just hope that the watermelon doesn't become, I don't know what.
Diluted.
Red wash, yeah, diluted.
Yeah. The power
That it
of
maintains its sweetness
Yeah.
and its, the
Potency.
potency.
Yeah.
And
Well, that it should be an like an entry point into the history rather than
Mhm.
detached. from
Yeah,
the history.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, like that over time, it
Yeah.
just becomes the safe way to say Palestine.
Yeah.
It just goes against
The point.
the point.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
But yeah, that has
That is
been interesting to see
Mhm.
the watermelon become this kind of symbol of resistance.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
yeah, I have mixed feelings about it now as it's becoming a little bit more mainstream and kind of the safe way
Yeah, yeah.
to talk about Palestine.
Question it.
Yeah,
Question it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's interesting because it also is very, very life affirming and did start in an act of defiance. So it's
Exactly.
both and.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
totally. And then the last seed is fa'us, which is like I mean, we grew up eating it. It's I think it's in the
It's like a cucumber, melon, cucumber.
cucumber family. They're really delicious.
And
So
it was really sweet talking to Nadia about the seeds, like, please grow it. And the way that she spoke about it was just so cherished. It's like, that is and of all the seeds, it's like, if I drop one, I make sure. It's like, no, 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 there's not extra. It's so special. It's so sacred. And I love that attention to seeds. There's plentiful of many things, and I love that, but holding them dear also feels like another testament to being radical in a world that's often taking things away. I so love that I got to go on all these adventures to collect all these things, to be part of this table. It was so meaningful. And it was such also a clear way for us to be connected to this place and see all the ways that people are taking action.
Yeah.
But you have so many examples also that you were able to put into this zine. Are there a few that you wanted to make sure to highlight? Because I also want to get to folks' questions.
Yes, for sure. Well, I'll just say one other, like kind of building off of, we started with the Mulakhiya,
yeah.
and we also asked another comrade, seed steward,
Right.
seed saver, Owen and his crew at True Love Seeds based in Philly.
Mhm.
So on my side of things, to share, because when we were talking about, moving into action and what does solidarity look like in action, or going beyond the symbolic, and also when we were talking about, well, what do we mean by solidarity, and going back and forth today, thinking about it as like participating in the struggle, I thought of True Love Seeds because they are folks who are not Palestinian or Syrian, but they started a Levantine collection. They
Right.
started with Syrian seeds, and then have grown out a lot of Palestinian seeds. And so what you can find in the zine is a bunch of resources from them and the story of their Mulakhiya seeds that they planted with Chef Anan Zahar and with Vivian and Hassan from the Palestine Heirloom Seed Library, and with all these comrades. And what I love about what they shared for the zine is kind of that whole community of people that it takes to do anything really, but especially food. And then also from like seed to plant to dish. And that being like the story, that right there is like what we mean when we're talking about like you know, moving from solidarity to action and seeing, I love that example of like seed keeping as a way to participate in a solidarity struggle, and also to be supporting people, like if we're in deep loving relationship, and so how can I participate in her building sovereignty, right? You know, like, and so let's say I had access to land, which I don't, but if I did, then what would we be doing together, deciding how do we use this
How do we leverage this in this specific direction?
How do we all leverage whatever resources we do have?
And I want you to say that again. How do we leverage the resources that you do have?
Yeah.
If there's one takeaway from this evening, let it be that.
Yeah.
All of us have access to something.
Right.
Leverage it in the direction of this every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes that requires, depending on our positionality, to give something up, right?
It does.
To give up a comfort, to give up a privilege.
Be okay being
Yeah,
uncomfortable.
to
Like right now.
Move through, struggle with people.
We should not be
because,
comfortable right now.
No.
Like,
Nobody.
nothing about this is comfortable, but if we're doing it together, like, and we know that the end result is gonna be better than what we have now, that should,
It's
let that
worth it.
motivate us, you
Mhm.
know?
I do,
worth it.
and then I do want to, just because it's kind of time
Yeah.
sensitive,
Yeah.
point out that our comrades in the like cooperative movement and solidarity economy movement, we included their week of action, divest from militarism and invest in life. So that's in the solidarity, how we nurture our connections, which is kind of more how we define solidarity.
Yeah. We're like,
And so that is like a concrete
yeah.
week of action that we've included a call for. And then other than that, I would say that some of like these, we very intentionally gathered a lot of resources that do a lot of important helping us do this cross movement building, which we need now more than ever. I mean, you spoke to some extent about how Israel's colonization and occupation for decades and decades now has deliberately fragmented, you know, created geographical and economic and social fragmentation amongst Palestinians. And we're seeing how we're being pit against each other here. And so these are a lot of examples of kind of food-centered cross-movement building that us and our comrades have been doing. And so we hope that that will be helpful for everyone wherever you are located.
Get in where you fit in.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also November 29th is Land Day, Palestinian Land Day, and there will be a lot of coordinated actions around that. And it falls right around, you know, the time that this country whitewashes genocide. And so there are
little colonial myth making.
So I think
it's all relevant.
Figure out what those acts of resistance and solidarity could be during those weeks to not partake in this system, right? That continues to normalize what we're willing to accept again and again, right? So
I mean, you know, I like to put a finer point on things. It's one of the things I really need to do in life. And what you just said is so true. And I'm going to say it again, too. I need people to hear us. We have been habituated to mass death. And that is unacceptable. What are we going to do about it? And many different versions of this habituation have happened in a short period of time. I'm talking about COVID as well. I'm talking about millions of people dying. Maybe set the tone for us accepting 200,000 to 300,000 people dying in a genocide. Maybe that's what happened to us as human beings. We have to absolutely fight against that because it is unacceptable. And I need to say these things repeatedly because it matters to me that folks walk away from this evening knowing clearly what their agency is. And I really want to hear from them in this moment. If we can, if Elizabeth can share with us some of the thoughts, some of the ideas, some of the questions of folks that have been watching this evening. I want us to have that connection with you. Please, Elizabeth, share something that you have seen there.
What farm zone? This is other land.
I'm sorry, could you say once more for me?
What farm zone
That chart, the zones.
So I wouldn't be able to answer that directly. I've looked it up many times and I
Yeah.
always forget. But they do ask this question about farm zones, and I think it's really
They're all
a
changing
powerful
now
one. And
because of climate.
that's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
No. Say it. Just keep saying. But it's this idea that we can predict what can grow in any particular area based on its climate and based on its conditions. And it's a really powerful way for people to connect across the distance, because you can see how, oh my gosh, California is the same as Mediterranean, or, it's really a beautiful connection across space and time.
But that's all
And it's
changed.
all shifting.
Yeah.
So there are beautiful places that offer this information online to look up your own farm zone wherever you are. I think that's another level of intimacy of knowing where you are and knowing who and what you're connected to, what's possible for you to grow, and taking agency of that. And it is powerful to think that we are living in this moment of constant change and adaptation. And that's also required of us. Like, we can't rest on old science. We can't rest on old ideas. But what's true is this ancestral knowledge of change. And thank goodness we've listened to that, and we just need to listen more, I think. Thank you for that question, and also just the reference.
Thank you for that question, and we will not be answering it.
But what it acknowledges is that we do have motherlands as well.
Yeah.
And, we center the US so often. I'm always grateful for a moment to decenter the present moment and go back to motherland and know that that's where we're from, that's where we were grown, even if we've not been able to visit, even if we've not been able to have the relationship that we've wanted with it. It's still a truth. So thank you for that. What else do you see, Elizabeth?
Well, that person also said we just changed to a hotter zone in the Midwest.
Yeah, it just changed.
Yeah.
Another guest says this has been so nourishing for my heart.
Oh, I'm so glad this was nourishing to your heart. I feel like that's we were talking about that yesterday as we were gathering with folks in the food and farm and hospitality community, and activists in this area. We long for it, we want it, and we need to make it for ourselves. So that's one of the major commitments I have as a chef in residence at MOAD, is to create these moments. And we'll have more throughout this year and next year to acknowledge where we are and not to shy away from it. Embrace that we need to have each other close, and having each other close makes us stronger to do the action, action, and get uncomfortable.
We need the fuel for the action.
All that. Are there any other things you wanted to share, Elizabeth? Thank you for those thoughts. I really appreciate it, everyone.
I think
Go
also
ahead.
just one thing I'll say, just to
Please do.
respond to the
Thank you.
comrade in the Midwest, is that something I've been thinking about a lot is how absolutely crazy it is that our agricultural system was not actually the US, the agricultural system was built to colonize, not to feed people. It was designed, like people talk about, oh, the food system's broken. It's not broken. It was designed to break people and to break community relationships to land. And we could go on and on about that. And but just to say, you were saying that it switched to a hotter zone, and obviously that being evidence of climate change, and it was already hard for farmers to make a living. And more farmland is either being put out of farming, because the only way that retiring farmers can have any money to like live in old age is by selling to developers. Or it's all getting bought up by a smaller and smaller number of corporate, agribusiness. So monocropping farms, commodity farming, like soy and genetically modified corn and all of that. And so I think that's something, and so it was already hard to be a farmer. And now it's, of course, the fellahin of the world, the farmers, the land workers, the peasants throughout the world who are going to always feel the effects of climate change the first and most. And But we have to think about that's why for all of us, like we're very intent on making sure that we're figuring out how to continue to adapt. As Reem said, residents are definitely teaching us how to do it in mind-blowing, unbelievable ways. But also that we have to think about what are ways for those of us who have the resources, how can we support farmers and in wherever we live, and how can we support people who are growing and making and distributing food, because we work very, very hard and make very little money. And I just want to name that and be like real talk about that, because the industrialized, globalized agricultural system has made it so that the big farmers, the big farm corporations make it so that somebody, if they need a cheaper apple, they have to buy an apple shipped from New Zealand rather than an apple for me in New York, persimmon here, grown by someone who's their neighbor.
Yeah.
That's why the divest invest framework is
Yes.
so important.
Yes.
It connects why actually you shouldn't see solidarity
Yes.
as an act of support. It's not that. Like, this is an act for our collective liberation. By doing this, we're doing this, right?
We're world building.
Yeah.
It's literally taking the very specific
Right.
initiative to replace this with that.
Yeah.
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 And that has to happen across the entire spectrum of humanity and how we engage the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No,
up to
I
us.
really appreciate to replace
Yeah.
and that with this.
Yeah.
And
That with this.
and them with us, or but I think that actually is maybe like a really powerful note to end on, and I'm glad you brought it back to the divestment stuff, because we have realized that as especially in the face of so much attempted silencing and criminalizing of Palestinians and their allies in the US, right? And, criminalizing and attacking and trying to censor any support for the Palestinian struggle for liberation. Those of us who are working in food and hospitality are positioned to really strengthen the broader movement, and also locate this work within a broader transformative or progressive or radical politic, because we're saying we're divesting from militarism, we're divesting from agribusiness, all these violent extractive systems, and investing in local regenerative economies. And
We're putting the money back into the hands of the people. And so,
Yeah, always the people. Seriously, the people.
yes.
And that also reminds me that this is an invitation for folks to do their own version of this that we did tonight. We have not only the recipes that we had today, but we also have additional recipes at the back of your beautiful sage, the bread recipe. Oh my God, so delicious. We did the yeast version only because people, the sourdough starter can be a little bit more of an access jump. But make these recipes. They're from you, they're from Layla in the Gaza kitchen.
Anan also.
Yes, Anan as well. This is an opportunity for you to take it personally and to take the time and to learn this perhaps new thing. Maybe it's already something that you know, but these recipes are an opportunity to be in deeper relationship, to feed some folks that you invite into that meal, and to have this conversation again and again and again. But don't stop at the conversation. We're not looking for partners in ideology. We're looking for partners in taking action to stop this genocide. That is the reason, that is the purpose. And I want that to be so clear.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for bringing us together in this way.
Thanks for cooking with me, y'all.
I know, right?
That was fun.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, it was. And the person who said this has been nourishing for them, I'm glad, because it's certainly been nourishing for us.
We get to pour into one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, and keep going, keep going. Thank you for keeping going. I want to make sure that I've said all the things I need to say, and I think that England and Elizabeth probably have more of a clue than I do right now. England, Elizabeth, is there
What
anything on
is
any
that?
spreadsheet that has been unsaid that we need to say in this moment?
Yes.
Oh, oh.
First, I just want to say thank you to everyone for this really wonderful program, this provocative and crucial discussion. Thank you. I also want to mention that we have 3 chef-in-residence programs coming up with Jocelyn Jackson. The next is the Contemporary African Kitchen Tastes Like Culture on Thursday, December 5th from 6 to 8 p.m. here on site at MOAD with Chef Alexander Smalls. And you can register for that program on our website, moadsf.org. Jocelyn will also be presenting a program with artist Angela Hennessy on January 23rd and a film screening and discussion on Finding Edna Lewis on March 2nd. So again, check out our website for those programs coming up. I put a link to a survey in the chat. I would really love for everyone to take a minute to fill out that survey and give us feedback about today's program. And of course, we want you all to spend time looking at the zine, learning about these issues and different ways that you can take action. Because like everybody was saying, it's not about just hearing about what's going on, it's about taking action and making change in the world so we can all live in a better place. Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are we continuing? Are we complete? Where are we in our filming?
Are we?
England, are we
Are we
still live?
is this on?
We're still live. Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure so I wasn't speaking to an empty room. Thank you for confirming. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing all those details about our commitment to uplifting the people and responding to the subtle and overt ways that you have shared that it means a lot to you to come together in community and learn about all the different ways that we are revolutionary together.
One shout
Go
out,
ahead.
if you happen to be in the food and
Mhm.
hospitality sector and want to get more involved, definitely follow, I think it's at hospitality4pal
Yeah.
on Instagram.
It's in the chat.
Yeah.
You all put that there too.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have the Hospitality for Humanity. We have Reem's in the chat that's been dropped. We have Fig in the chat that's been dropped. Also want to acknowledge again, Monica and Walid of Shrine, Kamakshi Duvuru. I want to make sure that we highlight England Smith, who is the magician behind the mix table. Elizabeth Gessler is our director of programs.
Nice.
All these folks that have come together to make sure that this happened.
Mhm.
Thank you to MOAD for holding this space and being, courageous leaders in taking a stand. And I think it's just humbling to know that people want to be here with us and have this conversation that's leading to so much in their lives, being more and more committed to taking care of each other. Makes my heart warm.
Mhm.
And is there anything else that you wanted to make sure to acknowledge?
I just really want to second how grateful I am for the museum to make space for this and support this and to be brave
Yeah.
in the face of a lot of attempts at silencing
That's real.
and criminalizing and harassing. So I feel we need this space, and I'm really grateful to you for knowing that your personal work is also, you have plenty to do in your own community and that you are
Making space.
yeah
It's
connecting it all. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really, really inspiring. So thank
you for that. Oh, let's continue to be in great, deep, and full relationship with one another. I can't wait for what's next. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
We will sign off for now, and please have a really blessed and restful evening and wake up really, really, really early if you need to start making moves. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
Really, really early.
Really, really early. Make
I
second
literally
day.
am waking up really, really early.
You are. Thank you for that.